Cool. I think we are now live. Cool. Okay, so this is the Quadra Art Talk Shop episode zero point 0.1 alpha. Um, we have Laura and Lou, two game artists that work with us at QuadraTron, and today we're just going to have casual shop talk about art, how it relates to games, the methodologies, the pros and cons, the ups and downs, and all the fun stuff, and maybe not so fun stuff. So, all right. So I'm gonna have I'm gonna be emceeing, so I'm just gonna like kind of keep the conversation going. Might ask some questions, and I might answer some questions if they have any technical questions about game development. And Laura and Lou are going to talk about art. And here we go. So, all right, Laura and Lou, have at it. Oh, and I guess I'll start the video because we're going to watch.
There we go.
Yeah. We're going to watch. How do I do it here? Media. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
That should be streaming on YouTube now. All right. Yeah. So it's a time lapse of some art that Laura did for Strange Heroes and QuadraTron and maybe some other things too.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, this starts off with a couple of sketch composition ideas. There's a lot of fish head, pulp sci-fi inspiration. Like me and Zenis discussed in the beginning, we wanted to take inspo from classic retro sci-fi comic / book covers. So with a lot of these, I kind of had this tropey, like they came from outer space vibe. That's really
I think that definitely comes through.
Yeah, there's like emotional. I don't know, they have this dramatic flair to them. That's kind of fun. Zenis, I don't know if you want to pull up some of the images. The second slide on the first PowerPoint I sent you, I took some inspiration from Super Science.
Yeah, hold on, I gotta switch things around.
No prob.
Yes. Let me see how I do that here.
Oh, that's cute.
OBS. I think what I need to do I turn this one off? No. Oh yeah. Oh, I gotta actually transition to this. There we go. So in OBS you have to kind of like transition between different sources.
I see.
I guess I should open up the YouTube channel as well.
I do love that like pulpy kind of style that you're pulling from, because I have the PDF pulled up for myself.
Yeah.
Just to hype up what's coming, like.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fun. It's, I don't know, like some styles like never die. I feel like there's timeless things like
Absolutely.
Retrofuturism in general will just always be so appealing to me.
Yes! I totally get it.
Yeah, like it's just so, I don't know, there's something kind of kitschy, but it's like a time capsule that still stays timeless. Like that, you always see that style pop up again and again.
It's like iconic, like instantly recognizable. You don't have to do a whole lot of work for it. Like, it just, as long as you can capture like the kind of vibrant colors and big text and like a big action or drama happening, like,
yes,
usually have it. You got it.
Right. I know, like the people are always like, I'm afraid, like they look like they're getting like stabbed. They just have these like expressions on their faces of fear, complete grotesque, like, what is this monster?
Even their posing, like,
yes, it's great though.
So this is the original Zog.
Yeah, this is the original Zog here. It's funny. Like I have not. I mean, it's been a while since this work was done. You know, we had basically character concepts I did for 2D character design class in freshman year of college and more, but the rest that we based, our Strange Heroes off of was completely new, but I pulled a lot of inspiration from this, especially the character. I mean, basically that shawl, the wings maybe, or the scarf, that head, that bug-like head. Like, what is
antennas.
Yes.
So expressive.
Right, thank you.
It's fun to take, like, non-human characters and, like, look at all of their features and be like, alright, well, how much can we emote with, like, these ears or these antennas or anything like that? I think that's always a fun challenge when you're making something that doesn't have, like, a human face you can just read so easily.
Totally. Like, personifying something, if you give it, like, just the little eyes or just the tiniest little expressions go a long way. Like, I see those images online all the time of, like, an oven, and it'll have, like, the knobs placed in just the right spot, where it kind of looks like two little eyes and, like, a handlebar smile, and you're like, "Aw."
Right! Or, like, car headlights. Like...
Yeah.
Pattern recognition is a crazy thing.
It is. And faces, I feel like it's very easy. You just dot, line, there's a face.
Exactly.
But, yeah, this is technically like a alpha Zog in a way that I named Red with 2 Ds, so to be cool.
To be fair, Zog was a ChatGPT creation, right?
That's true, yeah.
Oh.
They came up with that for us, so oops. Okay. We'll just add 2 Gs to it.
I was gonna say.
And an exclamation mark.
Double letters makes everything cooler.
Yeah, or a Z, which we already have, so. Zogs.
Double coolness.
Double Zog.
So, I got a quick question about this.
Sure.
So this is obviously a different style than what you're creating today. Do you go back and explore these older styles at any point?
That's an interesting question. I feel like sometimes yes, I've tried to, but usually I find it kind of hard to slip back into whatever style, no matter how long it's been, no matter like how far removed I am, for whatever reason. Sometimes I just can't get back into it. Maybe it's the software I'm using, because these were all drawn on Photoshop. We had the fancy Cintiqs that connected right to the computer, and we were able to just draw right on the screen. And I think I used a very teeny tiny basic Photoshop line brush and just went crazy on the detail. I'm sure, Lou, you can appreciate the amount of detail.
Oh, yeah.
You're pretty painterly style yourself, but
I keep looking at this. Like, I haven't taken my eyes off of it once, I hope you know.
Yeah.
And
it's
the art school
funny.
setup, like, genuinely changes how you draw. Like, it's so weird. How, like, I draw differently on my iPad, on my sketchbook, on my Cintiq, like, the positioning matters so much. Even if I'm laying in bed versus sitting at my desk, it's, like, different somehow.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I feel like paper, too, like, I'm just so casual when it comes to drawing on paper. Like, I'm not even thinking about it at all.
Right.
But as soon as it's taken to some digital platform, I feel like it needs to go to some finalized state immediately.
I want to be casual on paper, and I get so neurotic about it for no good reason.
Really? I find it easier to do that on paper, but you're the opposite.
I guess so, yeah. I think it's just because I haven't... if you did a ratio of digital art to just paper sketching, it's a quite slim line representing the paper sketching, so I think it's just a matter of getting back into it.
Yeah, I think it's handy. Something about it, traditionally, I feel like... I don't know, sometimes, I guess I can see how it's, like, tangibleness, like...
Yes, I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm, like, if I make a mistake, like, that's there forever.
Yeah.
And
right. Sometimes it helps the... I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it sort of depends on your mindset. I used to have a really awesome digital painting teacher who would tell me, think by drawing, let your drawing do all that hard work and thinking for you. Like, do not think, because whatever
sense.
you will make will never match this abstract idea of what you think it should be in your head. Because it won't. It's your imagination, which is limitless and powerful.
I find myself doing that with work now too. Like, I'll try to describe something. Like, Zenith has seen me do this. Like, I'll try to describe something I have in mind for deeper, and then I'm like, oh, screw this. I'll send you sketches.
Yeah.
Far easier to describe it that way, and that way, the other person's imagination isn't like completely going in the other direction. Like, I feel like you have more control over a pitch if you have at least some kind of sketches.
Yeah, for sure. Any kind of visual, really, because whatever you have in your mind and you're trying to dictate to the other person, they might get their own idea, or, they start to think of something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, we would have to blast out, like, concept images pretty quickly at the last company I was with. Not in a stressful way, but more of a just get this done kind of like, just shoot it out. Just try different things, like,
right.
In order to increase productivity, my supervisor would frequently request making sure certain things didn't take too long. Like, it would be a waste of your time to sink so much time into one little asset. Like, if this takes longer than 30 minutes, let's meet up and figure this out.
That's actually, like, that, yeah. I've had, classwork, which granted is not job work, but still, like, of, I want you to do, I had a professor, who had us do, like, 20-something thumbnails with value, and the idea was just to make us, like, explore different possibilities on a small scale, and that way, you can shoot them down there, and not when there are sketches that you, like, spent actual time on. And got attached to. Like, it's so much easier to just get through your ideas and, like, think through the process when you're just trying things, as opposed to, well, I like this, let's see how it works.
Exactly, yeah, like, don't fall in love with it, because then it's so hard to make changes on something that you've totally, like, emotionally bonded yourself with.
I know!
I had that problem like crazy coming into school, and even now, like, I tended to think that my first idea was the best idea. Like, this drawing will be the best, and nothing I do past this point will surpass that, so but that's usually not the case.
I would get mad when I would prove that part of me right when I, like, get done thumbnailing, and then I look at the top left of the page, and I'm like, oh, that is the best one, isn't it?
Yeah, right? Or, like,
oh, well, shoot.
I know, like, what
But it's still worth seeing what doesn't work.
It works. The exploration was necessary.
It's like my copium. Like, alright.
Yes.
I didn't just waste my time.
I know. We had, there was a children's illustration class I was in at Moore, and we had to do really rapid fire thumbnails. I think, like, we're talking, like, 20 seconds of thumbnail, and it was just, like, an exercise just to do it, like, let's try it. Let me freak you guys out by requesting this. And it most certainly did. He was like, just make these thumbnails 20 seconds apiece with a dog and a cat, and do them in all kinds of different positions, sizes, whatever you want to do, just do it. Just do it.
Okay.
And, like, by the end of it, the scenes were just, like, so bizarre and wacky, and it was kind of, like, interesting how much we could squeeze out of that.
Right.
And by the end of it, I mean, yeah, there were plenty of ones in the beginning that were far better, because, it's where your mind just traditionally goes to for a composition. Like, okay, they're just sitting here together, but now they're, like, jumping, and one's, like, it was nuts. I can hardly remember what they were, but It was supposed to be like just an exercise and like just go do it. Don't be afraid to try these different things and don't fall in love with the first little thing you make because it might be good, but you never know because 20 thumbnails
Exactly.
later, you might have something that's like way more awesome than you ever could have imagined.
Yes. I think I like the 20-second constraint because in freshman year, I remember in one of like those like design principle, like, early foundational classes, like
Mm-hmm.
we had to do, I think it was like 250 thumbnails for like a
Whew.
week assignment. And it's like, I would much rather just spend a class period of 20-second thumbnails than like, yeah, you have to fill this quota over the course of a week.
Yeah, I'm sure like everybody spent like 10 minutes per thumbnail at first and then it gradually
Yeah.
like less and less time.
Yeah. We were given like objects. It was like I had like a coin and a rubber band and
Oh
one other
boy.
thing, and it was just
Mhm.
shapes. And it was just, oh, make compositions with these shapes. And I was like, okay.
Alright.
I'm
The
sure I'll
most
learn from this, but all right.
yeah. Whatever you say, I'm sure I'll walk away with a wonderful life lesson learned.
You're right. And I did. I mean, I became more willing to just try crap, but 250 thumbnails will haunt a man for the next year
How many
afterwards.
how many sprite frames was in Fishhead?
Oh my god. It was like I want to say 1200,
Oof.
but I did not manually draw 1200. We manually drew like what, 36 tops? A
Oh,
run, jump, hit. At I guess 12 per each, so 12 times 3, if third grade math serves me right. It's 36.
36, yeah.
So
And
you would differentiate the illustration of the character and the coloring of
mhm,
them.
Okay. That's
yes.
right, because the different color combos.
Right. And I guess we didn't have a way to do it in Unity or the way the fish head was. I mean, it was all canned animation. Like I had
Mm.
just drawn that and I was actually kind of like puppet animating it in Procreate.
I was gonna ask if that's what you were using. Not in a bad
Mhm.
way, but it did. No, because that sounds like I'm throwing shade and I'm not.
Well, it was a nightmare.
Oh
I'll
god.
tell you that. It
No, I
was.
fully did not mean like, it looks like puppet animation. Like, I just
No, no. I mean, it kind of
it's
it's
cute. I
not like
like it.
no, I see what
I'm
you
not
mean
being a
because it's
hater.
not. No, I'm not being a hater. I realize that. Don't worry. I did not get hate from that because it's not like hand drawn like
Mhm.
every frame looks a little bit different and like Etta and Nettie. Do you remember that
Oh
show?
my god. Yeah.
Yeah, where they're like
Oh god, like the boil effect
blind.
on the lines.
Yes! That would have been cool, but, like, you could tell I was just reusing the same asset and moving it
Okay.
around, not really redrawing anything unless I had to, but oh god, through Procreate, that was a little messy. I should have taken that to some secondary software like Animate or anything else.
Anything else?
Anything else, perhaps.
Oh my god. I've
That
never ever
wouldn't
animated anything on Procreate.
that wouldn't be the last snafu from Procreate, I don't think, right?
No, certainly not. Well, we were just talking earlier about like layer uh limitations and I mean this piece up ahead I remember it was stopping me short at like 23 layers. So
Oof.
when I had to expand it like this, I had to basically take so yeah, actually I have done this, Lou. I had to take the original file that colorful block in the center and merge a bunch of those layers together, or some of them, being
Right.
frugal with it so that I wasn't just totally mashing everything down, like trying to keep the line art on a separate layer and all that. But anything
Right.
I could, I was mashing together so that I could have these extra layers for the rest. of the work.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Now, was expanding it something that you just like you saw it and you were like it could get bigger, or was it just a matter of meeting like dimension sizes?
It was kind of a matter of getting more bang for our buck with this.
Yeah.
Since, let's see, the original composition, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it doesn't really allow for much versatility in it. Like, you can basically,
Right.
we're only limited in how we can use it as, like, maybe a banner on Twitter or something.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that and important things like his hand holding that bone weapon and the rest of his feet, you can't even see those at all in this
Yeah.
original image. And we felt like, that's kind of an important eyepiece to highlight. Like, we should expand it to show the rest of him. And then, for variety's sake, we could cut up the image, like, just straight in the middle and just focus on that skull bone church guy, or focus on
Yes.
Zog, or whatever we want. There's a lot more different pieces we can take from each of these rather than the first one, which is a little more limited. I mean, it works as its own little composition, but I feel like it's more of a smaller snapshot than what the rest of the piece offers.
That totally
So,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, good question though.
No, yeah. Because I was watching like before the expansion and I was like, huh, I've seen the finish of this.
Yeah, like this.
This seems to be missing some things.
Yeah. Right. Like the hand flying at the viewer.
Right.
That is not there.
Such a cool image though.
Yeah, this was fun.
When you were
This
doing
Mhm.
assets, how
Right.
often did you have to iterate on a particular composition or asset?
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's a really interesting question. I feel like it varied a lot depending on either how close I met the mark, how important an item was, like if it was a button that was kind of not very important, just one or two quick ideas were fine, but most of the assignments sort of went like this. I would have 4 or 5 sketches. One or two would be chosen as the cream of the crop, or the direction that we'd like to go in, and then whoever, either my art supervisor or the people in charge, would sort of lay their opinions down, and things would change and change and change. I mean, I would say there could be a whole lot of changing. And I know we kind of had that happen ourselves a lot in previous projects like Fish Heads and Strange Stars. It did not end up looking the same as it started, but a
Right.
lot of the time at the previous company I was with, there would be quite a few changes requested for whatever reason. I mean, they were usually for the best, but also things you don't realize until you put them into a scene or you put them in practice. Like, let's say a dev throws them into Unity and we try clicking on it with animation and we're like, this doesn't work right, or this color doesn't match, stuff like that.
Okay.
But yes, if you work for a place that has strong opinionated people, there will be a lot of changing. I mean, it's always for the best product, I'll say that. But of course, you kind of want to like tear your hair out a little bit sometimes, like OMG. Or sometimes
Right.
beat myself up, like, why didn't I get that? Or why didn't I just do that from the start?
Oh god, I can imagine.
I'm sure you're no stranger. Artists are
Yeah.
just mean to themselves.
Extremely. Just uncharitable. Like
Yes, like, look at this here. I'm trying to figure out what area or what color to use so bad, and I'm just going back and forth. I remember just being like, why can't I get this? Why doesn't this look right? Gotta walk away, Laura.
Right?
Walk
And
away.
you know that if it was someone else doing that, you'd be like, "Oh, maybe try this color. I'm sure you'll get it though." When it's
Yes.
you doing it, you're like in the trenches, like throwing grenades, like it's terrible. You're not happy.
No, no. Every single time I walk away for brief respite, I basically always come back and figure out a quick and informed decision on how to fix something. It never does me any service to sit there and pound away
Oh god,
at
no.
a piece for like ever and ever. Sometimes I feel like I can't walk away until this is resolved.
I I always catch myself in that. And
Yep.
with the amount of times that mentality has failed me, you would think that I would perhaps stop doing it.
Yeah, you would think
But
you would
here we
learn.
are.
Here we are, and here I still am in this time lapse fiddling around with this one little area, and it's not even quote unquote resolved yet. Wait for it. I think at least. Oh wait, yeah, it basically is now. Touches. Yeah, I'm sure those will make a big impact.
And how does this affect your relationship with like the art director or whoever's like giving you that direction?
Mhm.
You know, and you're
Um,
like, I just
Oh.
flipped through these colors like 20 dozen times, and then you don't like the one I picked.
yes. I mean, it's kind of like I get it. Some people are not artists. Like at the place
Mhm.
I was with, it was sort of like I was talking to an artist and I was talking to someone who was not an artist. And like I understood that the non-artist would never really or he wouldn't be able to articulate what I needed to hear in order to fix it. He would just say
Right.
something like, "I don't like this." And
Or
then
like
usually,
sorry.
my art guy would be able to say, okay, I think it's this that needs to be changed because he just had the experience to know what needed to be fixed. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it would lead to some general annoyance or frustration to hear something that's um not necessarily constructive like I just don't like it. I mean, sure that's helpful. It tells me something needs to be changed.
Right. But elaborate further, please.
Yes, elaborate, but okay, we're there's an opinion there. And so it was kind of funny. It was almost like I was working with a translator that was able to just tell me, okay, this is what you should do. Because he just knew. I mean, he has 30 plus years of experience to be able to parse out, like, it's that. Yeah, you want to make that bigger. Or that should be green instead of blue.
Right. I
So,
think that's that sounds like very valuable to have though, I think. Just to bridge this gap because I don't know if it was a study or if it's just a theory where like
mm-hmm,
people who are professionals in their field sometimes will like overestimate what someone would know if they're
mm-hmm.
not one, and like I catch myself doing that with art so much. It's really bad
Yeah.
because one time we were working on the cobalt colors
Mm-hmm,
and was it the cobalt or was it the rogue? Something, like, was working darker. I think it may have been
mm-hmm,
the rogue, Zenith, correct me if I'm wrong, where I was like, "Yeah, it's, like, a little tough to do color explorations with keeping the rogue darker in color," and I remember you guys were like, "Oh, right, like, that makes sense, I didn't think of it that way," and I like talking, with coders because I like to kind of bridge that gap and be, like,
mm-hmm.
able to explain, like, stuff. That sounds I hope that didn't sound condescending because like, I
No, no.
genuinely just like it. I
Yeah.
think it's a fun experience to, work through something as a team,
Mm-hmm.
even when not everyone on the team is the same group
Right.
or the
No,
same
you're right
job.
though. There's always some interesting insight that somebody who's not like in the exact field as you has to provide and
Yes.
from whatever background they're coming from, it's like informing their opinions on that. So sometimes it's like I feel like they'll be able to point out something that I didn't even think of, or
Extremely.
right, like especially if you're working on a game or whatever, and they're like, "That's cool, but it might not work," or "That's cool, but you can do it like
Yes!
this," or
I
"We can
value
do it
that
like
so
this."
much.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I like getting told early on, "Fix those proportions. He's gonna be
yeah.
small. He needs to be readable." Because, like, I sometimes get so bogged into my details that, like,
Mhm.
I do kind of need the non-art, like, brain to pull me back in and be like, "Dude, he's gonna be small on that screen. You need
Yeah.
to chill."
No, I was the same way. I feel like you wanna put, like you wanna make everything, like, the very best it can be, but
Yes.
it can so not be worth it if it's just, like, one little asset, like, sure, a logo that you'll see all the time is
Oh, yeah.
important, and you should put that time and care into it, but, like, use the time wisely, not only for yourself, but for just productivity's sake and your own well-being. Like, if you're spending, the same laboring amount of detail on, like, one little button, or
Yeah.
and multiply that by, like, 28 buttons, you will quickly be driven insane, but
That freaking treasure chest, like,
I
how many scales in that line art? Like, I fully
yeah,
could have just done your approach and just not worried about lining it and just rough painterly approach to it, and it gives a better read even, like, things like that. I like to I'll get so agonizingly focused in on these things because 'cause I'm
mhm,
working zoomed in. I zoom out occasionally, and then I'm like, "Alright, let's get back into it." And
yeah,
working zoomed in is kind of a nightmare, but it's also how I work.
right, because you wanna go in and paint and, like, make it all beautacious.
Right, right. "Oh, it looks so pretty on my tablet screen," and I don't
Right.
I'll shrink it and be like, "Anyway, back to, full sizing it."
Mhm. I know, and it's funny that, like, kinda like it should be done, or, like, that's the opposite of how we should be approaching it. Like, you
Mhm.
better be looking at it 90% tiny and only
Exactly.
10% big. I did that so much at, the last job. I mean, I'd have to constantly remind myself to throw whatever it is I was working on. I mean, I feel like buttons are coming up a lot, but there were
Mm.
many a buttons to be made.
This is
And
game
I
art, there's plenty.
yeah, there's plenty of buttons that need pictures, especially if this is for a young audience that cannot read.
Oh my
Johnny
god.
cannot read challenges.
Yeah.
He
Needs to
cannot
be nice
read
and
that.
pretty and clickable.
Yeah, like, throw it on the game screen, throw a shadow on that, like, does it look like a button? Can you see the picture? Can it be pressed? Like, all
Right.
these different things, that stuff is almost just as important, or if not more important, and I feel like that has been I mean, definitely a challenge to grapple with, like, as an artist in this industry
Oh, for
because,
sure.
yeah, as artists, we wanna be, like, that painstaking, like, Van Gogh, like, "I I bleed for this art," like,
Right.
"This is my art." What?
Every asset will be my masterpiece.
Yes. Right, but,
The
like,
people
you
who data mine this are going to be wowed at the level of detail I put into this.
yes, this Giga Leak is Giga for a reason. Phenomenal. You're yeah.
Exactly.
But so much of it is just not really worth it, or then
No.
you'll never have anything that comes out. As much as the company I was with, it was fast paced. It was like, I mean, they were churning out updates and they were happening. It might have
Right.
been a little grueling, but it happened. It made stuff get done.
Right.
So,
There was
yeah.
production, it wasn't.
There- yeah,
Yeah.
but
And surely there's a balance.
I think there is a balance, right? We don't have to kill ourselves with painstaking detail to everything, but
No.
we don't have to like rush, rush, rush. I think it's just knowing when to stop. Like this is
Yes.
fine. This gets the point across.
No more, please.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things, especially when you were doing these things, I asked you to just sketch it real fast, not to put a lot of
Yes.
time. Like I tried to avoid that problem where you get too deeply involved
Mm-hmm.
by telling you just sketches. If it takes you more than 15 minutes, it's too
Stop.
long. Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
So does you find that helpful to not only have someone tell you that
Mm-hmm.
they don't want a lot, but to do lots of very quick sketches? Do you find that helps you from going too deep down that rabbit hole?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Definitely, because I mean, like we said earlier, it's also like you don't become married to the idea either and
Mm.
really attached to it and have it in your head like this is what it should look like. Like when I did these, I think yeah, I felt like equally about all of them because I spent the same quick amount of time. Or I knew, maybe he'll lean towards this one because
Right.
it's cooler, but I wouldn't be upset if one was chosen over the other. Um, and
Yeah.
it does help because then you get the quick idea, and then we would be able to like expand it later. I think like we sort of did these or made these in mind with being able to change it quickly, expand it however we needed. Like
Right.
since this was a YouTube thumbnail, I think the beginning images, I had just drawn the stuff that's on the left side and not had not put that much time into it. So then when we met, you were like, "Okay, well, these are going to be used for a YouTube thumbnail, so let's make sure that we can expand this image." Oh, there we go. I had to tie two together, so sneak preview of what that will look like, but you can see like the way I drew it, I wanted to allow some of that room to be made, and I think by doing it so quickly we could just be easily able to add things where we need it, expand it horizontally a little bit, and then vertically. You can see how crude this stuff is on the top and bottom because I just did that in Photoshop. And
Oh,
it
that makes
it
sense.
worked. That's like just mouse drawing.
No, but
So,
it gets the job done, and I think
right.
that quickness, like, because you're not getting attached, you can also look and be like, "Well, these are stronger, but I'm not gonna be mad about not using them." Ultimately, like,
Right.
you get a better objective sense of what works, and frankly, like, you can always spend more time on a sketch. You can't really get back the time you spent on a sketch that doesn't get picked.
Right. So
You can
why
always add
bother?
time.
Yeah, like don't yes, just you'll save yourself more time now by just providing a bunch of really quick burst ideas. And usually it's like the person on the other side, like they'll be able to pick out whatever they want and like that'll be it. And then don't worry about the rest because it's not what
Yes.
they need anyway. Like don't worry about the other one that didn't go perfect because that's not what they want to go forward with anyway.
Right, they're not gonna think that like, "Oh, this sketch kind of sucked though." Like, I know there's a
Yeah.
good one, but this one isn't great. I'm gonna rethink hiring this person. Like, you're gonna have like bad sketches, you're gonna have sketches that don't really work. Like, it's cool.
Mhm.
It's all right.
Yeah. Exactly. And then it'll be just easier to shape and mold later. Like, I feel
Exactly.
like with this process, we were able to work out a lot of the kinks that happened in making compositions for the previous image, where, we started it in this certain composition and then we expanded it past the point of line art and coloring. Whereas this was like, it was just more malleable.
Mhm. Right.
So just a one little point of interest that could be expanded. You just get that basic idea really quickly. Don't really think much of it and like boom, there you go.
I also, I like seeing how rough your initial sketches are and then, like, moving on to the presentation phase because I feel like that was something that, like, learning it in school has helped me
Mhm.
so much, like, just being able to sketch for another person.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, thumbnails are for you, but, like, it's also very important to have a version of it that someone can read and go, "Okay, I see what you're doing." Because I think
Yes.
some people skip that, and then they're like, "Oh, well, why didn't you get it?" this is a
Mm-hmm.
head, like,
Right.
or something.
What's the level of detail I need to go into that makes sense but doesn't waste a whole lot of time? And I feel like these
Right.
like mouse sketches, like you get it. There's stuff, on the floor and it's like a bunch of
Oh yeah.
tchotchkes and really like it doesn't even really matter that much because the point of interest is the quadrabot. Like all the
Yeah.
rest is kind of supplementary.
Just an accessory.
It's just an accessory, yeah. Let's see, I'm getting all tied up on that wire. Just go. Just go.
Speaking of accessories.
Yes. Anytime I get snagged on something, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, if it's specifically in one drawing, I feel like I just need to move on to another area and come back to it
Yes.
later. Like, I'll
I do
figure
that
it
with
out, just
painting.
go.
Yeah.
Like, there we go, boom.
Yeah, problem solved.
Problem solved.
My favorite thing is when I do that when I'm painting, and then I get back to that part,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
This is how I do that.
Oh, you again.
Yeah.
Same with 3D modeling, actually. That is something
Mhm.
that I'll be like, "Alright, I'm gonna put the hand sculpt down and work on the face," and I come back from the face, and I'm like, "Oh, alright."
Like,
Kicking my past
where
self.
yeah.
So I got another
Perfection.
question for you.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously, making art for yourself is, you can do all those things and you can spend, 20 days on a cable.
Mhm.
Um, but, when you're doing art for a job or for someone else, it's different, right? You're not necessarily expressing yourself, but you're trying to help someone else express themselves as well. Can you tell me a little bit about how that feels from your perspective, or what are the trials and tribulations of that?
Mhm. Hmm. Well, I feel like at least working with you, Zenis, I mean, you do allow for a lot of like you kind of let the artist drive a little bit, I would
I
say.
wouldn't think so. I'm kidding. I agree.
I disagree.
Yeah, right?
I object.
No, I 100% agree with Laura. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, you give us a lot of authority, whereas, working for a company when there's already like a specific style in place or a set of like artistic rules that you just have to follow according to whatever style guide or the ways of that universe. I mean, it can be a little difficult because it feels like that's not necessarily you or it's a little sterile. At least I think like in the children's realm, like we had to make sure that things were designed like as readable and understandable as possible because 5-year-olds are not as smart as you'd think they'd be because they're 5 and they really just can't read. And I mean, to me, sometimes it felt like I wasn't able to inject a lot of personality into something and just sort of design things sterilely. But I think there's a fine balance, and I saw my art advisor sort of marry those two concepts really well, where he was able to still make something that was really cute and had personality to it that was the product's personality. Like he sort of made it his own thing. Like, all right, this is still fun and playful, but it's readable and it's definitely gonna be easy for kids to understand that this button means play. Because yeah, although that play was not one of the harder ones. Now, saving, kids don't
Oh
know what a
god.
floppy disk is, so it does not work anymore.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
That's not
they're
even something that's been passed down to them?
not yet, at least.
Hey,
They
what's
don't
this?
know.
It's the save symbol.
I
Yeah,
know!
right?
It's
How did you
great.
3D print that save symbol?
Nope. We had to do an arrow going into like a half circle, like a
Oh,
download icon.
download.
That was
Hmm,
save. That worked as save. But
interesting.
Yeah, the rest. So I think like there are ways for you to inject your personality into whatever you're doing for whatever company. I mean, it relies on style too. Like, if you can find something that more closely gels with what you like, even though I would say the finalized game assets weren't really analogous to the kind of art I make, there was still something to be found. Like, okay, this is for kids, and I like colorful things and cutesy little animals, so I'll hang on to those parts and emphasize that wherever I can. Cutesy, rainbow, you got it.
For sure.
So yeah, you just gotta find that little place you can squeeze into and hold on to, and you'll be able to.
I got I went oh my god, where's the sentence going? I had a portfolio review with someone who was like an artist at Rockstar
Mhm.
working on GTA, and he told me like there's a studio for you. Like no one wanted to hire me because
Mhm.
I was drawing criminals with guns, and then Rockstar hired me because I was drawing criminals with guns. Like
Right.
you'll find your studio that wants you to draw criminals with guns. Like
Yeah.
so I think what you said is true though, and like finding
Mhm.
something to care about in a project you otherwise don't particularly feel invested in. I
Mhm.
haven't worked the only game stuff I've done, I've been kind of like part of the like visual um development earlier in that
Mhm.
on, but like I had an assignment where we had to make like subscription boxes and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so agonizingly boring." And then I had the thought of like, "Oh, make it like a medieval alchemist themed like tea, subscription service, like just to
Yeah.
give me something to latch onto that I liked
Mhm.
about it. Like as long as you can find your thing, like for you it was like the colorfulness and the cutesy animals, like just something to
Yeah.
get you through it. Like
Right. Yeah. Make you or what am I'm like, make yourself make what you want.
yes, yes.
Make it
Exactly.
happen. Make. That's the word. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's a possibility within like every project or company to find that niche for yourself. Like if there's something to be glommed onto, glom onto it.
Mhm.
But
Right.
that is, I mean, it worked out pretty well. I think like maybe
You
it'd be a
survived.
little harder to be on GTA or something
Oh god, right?
with at least my past portfolio of baby animals and let's blow them up.
Yeah, right. I'm versatile, I swear.
I'm versatile. I can draw kittens sleeping and exploding.
I can draw kittens maiming people.
Yeah.
Well, aside from the subject matter, I mean, you did
Mhm.
show earlier in this video or this stream,
Mhm.
you were showing a style that was not this style,
Right?
and it
Mm.
was completely different.
Yes.
And I don't want to give any judgment call to anything, but
Mhm.
that style I felt like was mature is not the right word, but like more
Mhm.
adult or more edgy. These
Yeah.
aren't all good words, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. This is
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit more friendly, very
Mhm.
cartoony, and I have seen that you do have this wide range of styles that you're able to do, and judging by what you did at your last job, it's like
Mhm.
that's a completely not
That
you
is
style.
yeah, complete other end. Yeah.
So I think there is that sense of versatility in
Mhm.
there. You don't have to be just the person that
One
does
thing.
anime or the person that
Right.
does rock star cops and robbers or whatever. Um,
That's true.
so anyway, my thoughts
No,
on
That's
that.
a really good
very
point.
true.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'll just get bored with a style. Like
Me
I just
too.
change because I just change. Like I I'm not even sure if it almost feels like, I look at those old drawings from freshman year, those detailed little brown, I don't know why I used brown and red for all of those guys. Concepting. But it's almost like, you're like at a different part of your life, and funny, like it almost like tells a story to me. Like you can kind of see where I was at with all of these different parts. Not to get like
Yes.
philosophical here, but
No.
yeah, I feel like as you change, as you grow, like your art will change too. And I think that's also another wonderful thing that happens. Like every artist should want to be as versatile as possible because it's just kind of boring to stay on the same thing. I even tell myself like, all right, let's do something a little different here.
Right.
Just for kicks.
I'll feel like I outgrew like my older style sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to it because I'm like, oh god, these people look terrible. Like enough of that.
Right. Like I'm not that same person anymore.
Right. I was I was working on the Cobalt sprite for like end of year senior year.
Mhm.
Just because we just had to do portfolio pieces and my professor is very understanding, and he took
Mhm.
one look at the kobolds and he was like, oh my god, like you never do anything cutesy and like chibi like this. Like this is awesome, do more of this. Like people,
Right.
I feel like social media, oh god, I'm about to sound like old man yells at cloud, but I'm gonna be right. Like social media kind of encourages people to stay in a box and like, oh,
Yeah.
you want your content to be consistent, so people, follow you for that. And it's like I think people kind of respond to versatility. Like my thesis
Mhm.
project was like this like gothic Victorian like vampire action game concept art stuff, and I pulled out this little baby kobold and my professor was just as delighted to see both. I
Yeah.
think it's more important to just be able to fit the needs of
Mhm.
what you're making and show that you like doing it. Because I love that kobold. Like I wanted to show that
Great.
I enjoyed making him. Like even
Yes.
if he's different from what I have in the rest of my portfolio.
It is funny, like, people will be, like, delighted to see something completely different, like, "Oh,
Yes.
I never expected this from you." Like, delightful. This
Like
is
oh,
so different, whatever way it swings, but yeah, no,
like
you're
oh, the
so right
spooky
about the
goth
social
artist
media.
like can do a little cheapy. Like
Yeah. I can do this adorable thing or this, like, Resident Evil thing.
right.
Yep.
And that makes me hireable.
Yes, I know. Like, look at how versatile I am.
Are you
Exactly.
familiar with the game Banner Saga?
No,
Uh,
I'm not.
let me look that up. I don't
um,
think I am. Oh no.
it's got some really, it's got a really distinctive art style, and it's
Mhm.
really,
Oh, this is stunning.
I think it's really attractive.
I'm
But
looking at it now.
the story I want to tell is kind of along the same lines of what you were just talking
Mhm.
about. And I knew an artist. Uh, they were actually applying for a job at the company making Banner Saga, and one of the tests for the interview was, all right, go make a Banner Saga, go make art in the style of Banner Saga. So I think it was like an
Mhm.
asset for the game. It was like they had these like really long panoramas that
Mm,
you kind of like pan through in the game,
Mhm.
and
right.
they said, all right, make us a panorama in the style of the Banner Saga as you're familiar with it. And this fella spent I don't know a month or something working on this piece of art,
Oof.
and it looked
Wow.
really nice. It looked a lot
Mhm.
like Banner Saga.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope it
However, they lost out. They didn't
Oh.
get the job. The
Oh.
person who got the job was an artist who
Mhm.
had already been basically making fan art. They made tons and
Oh.
tons
Wow.
and tons of fan art, and when they went and did when they went and did the work, the test, they had so much experience of making Banner Saga style art that they nailed it. Like you know, and I saw the pieces side by side, and I was like, you know, the fellow I knew, I was like, yeah, it's really good, but Jesus Christ, this is I don't think it wasn't even a competition.
Yeah.
It was a little sad, but at the same time, it's like that just goes to show you, like, if you're going to be an artist and you want to get a job, you really got to hone that art, you know, every day. I mean, this guy was making Banner Saga art on his free time every day, you know, every 7 days a week. And it kind of also brings to mind something that this other artist I follow on YouTube said. Actually, I talked to him a long time ago, but he says, do the art, you know, if you're going to be an artist, do the art for the job you want, right? So if you want to be a concept artist, you have to do concept art. If you want to do character design, you have to do character design. If you want to do assets, you have to do assets. You have to fill your portfolio with that work.
Right.
No, that is good advice. I remember you telling me about that. Was that Trent Kennyuga?
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
No, it's really good advice though. I've been thinking about that lately for myself. Just thinking like what position I want to specifically apply for next and how to like fill up my portfolio in the best way possible for that.
I have a decent sense of what I want to apply for, but like I'm still in that boat of like, okay, how do I fill my portfolio up for concept art that like is diverse and like you know, shows that I have range within this, and like, you know, it's been a time kind of planning out like, oh, maybe I'll do like some weapon designs and put them on my site. Like even when you know what you're applying for, it's still a little stressful to find, I guess, where am I going with this? To find like the best way to make yourself marketable for that
Yeah.
job.
No, that's true. Honestly, when I applied to previous company, I thought nothing really on my portfolio. I mean, in a basic sense, I mean, it showed I could draw, but it wasn't like in any kind of style that they used. So I don't know what kind of zany advice this is, but when I sent my resume, I also sent basically, I don't want to say unsolicited, but like kind of a test of like, hey, look, I drew one of your characters in the style of the game. Like,
Oh,
this
that's smart.
proves that I'm capable of doing that right away. Like, you might not really see that on my website, but trust me,
Right,
bro.
no. That's not zany. That like makes sense.
Yeah. Later, I overheard they were talking about all the people that applied and like what made me stand out was doing that. Like you sent a PNG with your resume and it was pretty cool and it kind of showed like, oh, you cared a little bit. Like you
Yes.
actually looked into the work and you chose this character and you put him in a new pose and it looked cool and cute. Like, okay.
Still being in the style, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, it might not work for every place, but that's at least what I did, and I think it helped me out there. So,
That's yeah.
one little tip, possibly, I'm not sure. It was a
Huh.
little crazy looking back on it, but maybe you're right. Maybe I'm
I got
on
the
the
job done.
yeah. But
I can see that working though.
yeah, I mean, why not? It doesn't hurt.
It literally just shows you care. Like
Yeah, I
no
care.
downsides.
No downsides, really, unless they're like just a spoiled little place, but no,
Then you want
they
to
were
work there
chill
anyway.
about it. Unless it's Nintendo and they're like, you better not
Oh my god.
teach a Zelda Get her name out of your mouth.
I can't. You drew fan art?
Fan art?
That's like, that's why I feel like a lot of like teachers in the past would often say like, oh, you shouldn't have fan art in your portfolio
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people look down on it. But I think that's very narrow because I think if it's fan art of what you're applying to, it should be in there.
Yeah.
That's
Honestly.
that's my opinion. Like if
Right?
you want to get a job like working on Diablo, like yeah, put in your freaking like Diablo fan art. Hello.
Right?
Other
Do
ones
it.
maybe not, but like man, you can only help by doing that because it shows like an
Mhm.
interest and like oh you're familiar with these characters.
Right.
That's crazy. You literally just sent a I can't get over that.
I did. I just thought there's very little on my website that looks like this vector style. I know I can do it, but I don't
As well.
have much proof. So here's proof.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
I know. Hey, it worked. So I'll let you know how future attempts go. I get a
Can't be that
cease and
bad.
desist.
A cease and
Nice
desist.
try.
Listen, if you get a cease and desist for that, it wasn't meant to be.
Nah, yeah, that's
Honestly.
exactly.
Like you just dodged a bullet actually.
Yes, you showed me your true colors.
Exactly.
I know everything I need to know about you now.
Oof.
And here we are on the final image I time-lapsed. This is very old, and I would do things a lot differently now, but well, not a lot, but
I get it.
small detail-wise. I feel like you just come so far as an artist, like, even just year by year, I'm like, "Oh, wow." I look at stuff from last year, and I'm like, "That's okay."
Right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, because I'm
Mhm.
curious how you are about it. Do you like to go back and like rework a piece, like not
Mm.
completely redraw it, but just like go back and rework it and like get into it further if it's already done and you don't really have to?
Yeah, honestly, ooh, that's
Because
a
I don't.
good question. I do sometimes, like, if I have something that was left, uncompleted or
Oh yeah.
half done, sometimes I like to come back and sorta, like, flex the whatever iPad pencil and be like, "Oh, look at how much doper this could look now with my current skills and
Yes.
whenever I worked on this 9 months ago," and I don't know, just to bring life to something that's just been sitting is always kinda nice, and I swear I think all the time about revisiting, like, older concepts or older pieces and
Oh my
doing
god,
something
yeah.
new with them, but I don't actually do that.
Me neither. No, because like I'll finish something for an assignment and, I always get told like, "Well, you're never really done with it. Like you can always go back and rework the things." And it's
Right.
right, but I would like to just make something else now with my new knowledge.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't want to go back to things. If it's left unfinished, I have done that. But if it's done, I'll just
I
make
know.
something new with the critiques I've gotten. Like
Yes, I am ready to move on with this newfound knowledge.
right, unless I'm super attached to the piece for whatever reason, but even then,
Yeah, or if the fix is, like, kinda easy, then
yes.
sure, I'll go ahead, but I gotta say one of the most something like a thread I've noticed from transitioning from school to making art for a company or whatever, real life, quote unquote, because real life started when you entered the working force.
Exactly.
I definitely like when you do something for school, I mean you're you have the critique, you get the grade, you can do with it what you want. You can go and change it if you'd like to, but other than that, like it's basically done or resolved or whatever, but
It is.
for a product, it's not unless the person is happy with what you've made, and
Yes.
that has always, and I feel like that goes into like the iterative stuff, like you just
Mhm.
have to keep changing things
And
to get
not
it
getting
to that perfect
attached.
place.
Yeah.
Right. Without getting attached and whatnot. But that has been like a lingering point that I've seen, like that I definitely was not as prepared for as I thought I'd be. It wasn't so bad with QuadraTron, I'd say, as much.
Mhm.
I mean, we needed to change things for fish heads, a
Reason.
moderate amount, but I mean,
Yeah.
not to the point where I am just like rolling on the floor, not laughing,
Crying.
crying. Like that has been, yeah,
I
something.
agree.
So,
Just the right amount of iteration before you go completely insane.
mhm.
I don't know. I think I made you going crazy with the UI stuff.
For fish heads,
Yeah.
maybe that was probably the most like involved we got. Although that was a lot of collaboration too. I mean, we needed to. I mean, and there's still things I think I would change about it to this day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and I've learned more since then as well. But there's a lot of technical things that need to be fulfilled in that, and it's not just creative. It's got to be like it has to
Hmm.
be pretty, or it has to look good, but it also
Right.
has to like meet these specifications. And if it doesn't meet those specifications, no matter how good it looks, it's not going to be usable.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Jinx.
Knock on wood.
But
I
it's
think
true.
it
Yeah.
does. That kind of
Hmm.
brings it back to like how we were discussing overworking a piece.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if it's pretty. It's not readable.
Yeah, it
It
needs to be
doesn't fit these
functional.
specs.
Mhm.
Game art I feel like is such a different animal than like publishing and um other like avenues of like illustration and just art in general because like there's so much like moving pieces and like
Mhm.
hey, we just got this back from the environment group. This color scheme is not going to work on this background. You have to tweak it. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different like avenues of just like five teams converging and like
Mhm.
you need to make these changes and these specs, but the specs could change depending on how development goes. Like it takes more extra flexibility, but I think that's part of why I like it.
Yeah, like it's kind of really neat. It feels like this living, breathing, growing thing that
Yes.
evolves over time. That's what I love to see with fish heads, especially. Like, it just felt like every time we did something or added something or, changed something for the better, it was like, ooh, especially with like Strange Stars too, whatever progress we got, it was always just so exciting to see that and tweak
Hmm.
something a little bit so that it looked even better or
Yes.
what have you. And yeah, I mean, making game assets, like there's so many extra things you have to consider, like animation for it too. Like, how's it going to be animated?
Oh god.
How are we going to do that animation? Like, will it
Hmm.
be obvious?
That's its own like
That's its own
beast.
beast.
It really is because like once you're thinking about the animation, you have to think, do I need to be making like do I need to make these layers work for puppet animation? Like,
Hmm.
oh my god.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, thank God it's hand drawn. I already did the sprite.
Yeah.
It's not puppet conducive.
No, right. Like this, for example, like if I wanted to animate this guy, I don't even
Oh my
know where
god.
we'd start. I would have had to have drawn each of those eyes on like a separate layer. And it's a shame because I would love to see him animated. I feel like I can imagine those eyes and all the little organic parts within
Yes.
just pulsing out of that metal shell.
Right.
Maybe it would need to be canned or something, but still.
Right. You can imagine it, but then it's like you think about what it would entail to like redraw it, and you're like, yeah, that's why you plan for animating before you start.
Mhm. Ugh,
Oh,
totally forget. We used to I was always told to design not for functionality, but uh, I want to say it's like kit bashing. If you probably heard of that, 'cause
Yes.
that's done a lot in 3D,
Oh yeah.
where like make something that's conducive to being reused for
Yes.
one thing, like reduce, reuse, recycle wherever you can.
Let it be repeated, but it shouldn't be obvious that it's getting repeated, so it has to be
No.
just the right amount of, like, inconspicuous.
Yeah, just the right amount.
Oh,
Just
kit
enough.
bashing.
But yeah, just another effort to make the greatest use of your time.
Exactly.
But I mean, it could make things easier, like if we just used one eye asset, for example, on the singularity dude and duplicated it. But then I don't know. Some of them are in different angles and the size
Right.
differences. They would have
Gets
to,
repetitive.
yeah. There's ways of going around. I completely forget what the line was, but it was
So
echoed a lot.
did you make this first, or did we have did we have a boss that we were like, here's the boss, it does this. Can you make an enemy that does that?
That's a good question. I feel like I remember Jerome showing off a very like bare bones in Unity dude that was floating around, and that's just sort of what I imagine it could look like, and I kind of just went off and did it um without really sketching. That's probably not the best. A lot of the Strange Stars work was kind of just me drawing a lot of stuff, taking it straight to a more finalized state. I mean, there was some concepting stuff, but that was like just did that.
Jerome's watching. He actually said he came out with the concept. So I guess you created the visualization of
Okay.
his boss event.
Yeah,
Oh.
I remembered seeing something. Whatever he showed or created was totally just something that I ripped and designed for. It was cool. I mean, I remember those Unity demos would be like really inspiring for whatever the art team was, I guess at that point, me and a couple of interns. It would be neat to see some of these pieces in motion, no matter how rudimentary. I mean, you'd still sort of get an idea of what this thing could finally be. And yeah, that's right. I feel like he might have mentioned like a Cyclops creature, Cyclops-based creature,
Mm-hmm.
something with eyes.
It's kind of like an observer.
Yeah, just another reason why coders and devs, they always got something
Right?
interesting up their sleeve. Yeah. Because they have a picture in their mind too of like, I mean, he created that thing, and like, what do you have in mind for it? Where do you see this being?
That's, I think, that's what's so fun, because I feel like we'll sometimes get bogged down in, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh god, how are we gonna, like, concept that and make it work, and, like, because, like, I like talking with coders because they're not drawing it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they will just give like the coolest ideas you've ever heard and be like, "Oh, yeah, I could try that." And I'm sitting here like, "Huh, I didn't even think of that." Like the stick
Right.
with the beehive attached to it is like so
Oh.
iconic and funny, and like I'm thrilled to start actually drawing that out because it's been on my mind since I got on deeper and I found out about it in the first place. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it's so magical that different teams will collaborate on stuff like this.
Yeah. No, that's adorable. The
I
little
love it. Because you
beehive on
shake it and then like the bees come out and like sting like a nearby enemy. It's so funny.
Oh, that could be so cute. Like those little bee particles.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up. Well, we're over an hour at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and we only really scheduled for an hour. You guys can, if you want to talk for a little bit more, we could, or we could save it for next time. But I was just kind of scanning through some of these
Mm-hmm.
images you also gave me. to put up here, and some of them are pretty cool things I haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you haven't seen these environment finals. I still think about them from time to time.
Yeah, I think maybe one of our next ones, we can do kind of a more podcast where we actually talk about a particular topic. I know this one we were kind of like, let's just kind of keep it open ended, but
yeah, spitball.
Yeah, because it's kind of cool. Like looking, these are all concepts and character concepts. So environments, characters, and I think it would be a nice conversation to kind of go through the process of kind of coming up with the ideas and what were the constraints or the requirements of the quest, and how do you like turn that into actual art.
Sure.
So that was both of these documents were kind of the same. Oh, this shows some of the references you were using, I guess, as well.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that because I have this like fascination with these old Pulp Fiction covers.
They're great. They're just so dramatic, but I don't know. I love how wonderfully whimsical they are.
And there's Fly Guy in his original form, Fish Boy,
first Fly Guy,
Zog,
first Fish Head, first Zog. They're all from this batch.
I like this boar guy.
Which guy?
The middle and the top.
Oh yeah,
he's fun.
Yeah,
I think I did some iterations on that too.
Whoops. So yeah, I think one of the future ones will maybe go through some of that stuff as well, in a little bit more detail.
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Fish Heads. There's some poster, and there's Sonic. You can't get away without a reference to Sonic.
Yes, I was gonna say how I would totally do these things differently, like the line weight. Something I've noticed lately is that it's so much better to do heavy line weight near the viewer. Like you can see Knuckles' foot has a thick line weight on it, but the rest kind of gets thinner, but it doesn't go like as thin as it should be. And even though it's kind of cool and fun, I still feel like it would be improved on a newer paint over, kind of like the Zog image. The Bone Church guy, his lines are very thin, and the colors are lighter and all that stuff. So like the image on the right here was better than the one on the left because they're kind of all the same line thickness, and even though I fudged it by blurring two characters to the next to this little monkey guy, it's still there's just like a lot happening. Whereas the one on the right, I feel like because that guy in the background has thinner lines and there's lighter colors, you're kind of like more easily guided around the image than something that's a little more of a chaos moment.
Yeah, so I think we got a lot of stuff we could talk about in the future episodes.
Sounds awesome.
For sure.
Looking forward to it. And then, of course, we're doing the Quadra Dev stuff as well. Each one of these is probably just one each month. So we'll do these art ones maybe in the beginning of the month, and then the dev ones like in the middle of the month or something like that.
There we go.
Cool.
Yeah, that works.
All right, cool.
Exciting.
Any shout outs you guys want to do before we close up? Where
shout out to Fish Boy. No.
Shout out to the Cobalt.
Yeah, shout out to the Cobalt for real.
To the Cobalt and Fish Boy.
The little men.
They're best friends to me.
They're BFFs.
Yes.
Yes, they definitely sleep in a bunk bed together.
I'm picturing the two of them and also Quadrabot like in the same bed, like lined up next to each other.
Oh, that would be such a cute little image, like a
matching sleeping caps. Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds like homework to me.
Yeah, right. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, right.
I know.
All right then. where can people find your art?
I'll let you go first, Lou.
I'm at lou.doodles on Instagram, and you spell dot out.
Yes. Can confirm. Lou D-O-T.
Lou D-O-T Doodles.
Doodles.
On Instagram and Twitter.
There you go. And I am Wallabites, or Wallabites99, across Instagram, Twitter, have wallabites99.com for those that like to visit websites like the ye old fashioned days.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should put my website.
Wix! Wix, baby!
I use Card. My site is
Mm.
luchaffee.art.
There you go.
CIOFFI.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, guys. Till next time. See ya.
Alright,
Cool.
until next time.
Next time.
See ya! This
See
is
you
fun.
around. Yeah, right?